So you booked a cruise, congrats. Except there's a plot twist. Record numbers of passengers are getting bumped off cruises they already paid for. Not because they messed up, but because cruise lines are chasing profits, shuffling ships, and overselling cabins. And the worst part? You can do everything right, pay in full, and still lose your vacation. And yeah, it can happen to you like it happened to me. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. Once you've booked a cruise, it feels like your vacation is locked in. The dates are picked, the balance is paid, and now the countdown begins. But more and more cruisers are finding out that confirmed doesn't always mean guaranteed. Entire vacations are getting wiped out before they even begin. Getting bumped is out of your hands, but knowing why it happens and what to do when it does can save you a lot of stress. So let's talk about it. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. One of the fastest growing reasons cruisers are getting bumped is simple: math. Cruise lines are overselling cabins. Here's how it works. They assume a small percentage of people will cancel or no-show, so they sell more cabins than they physically have, and most of the time it works out. But when everyone actually keeps their booking, well, somebody's out. It's the same trick airlines play, except on a cruise, you don't just catch the next sailing in a few hours, you lose the entire vacation. And the numbers are wild. Cruise lines are bragging about ships sailing at over 100% occupancy. And that's possible because cabins can squeeze in more bunks and sofa beds to get more people into each cabin. And lately, we've seen numbers as high as 109% for entire cruise seasons. Investors love it, but passengers, well, not so much. This isn't hypothetical either. In fact, just back in May, Royal Caribbean overbooked their Allure of the Seas sailing from Rome, and with only weeks before departure, they started contacting passengers with move-over offers. Guests were given refunds, credits, or the option to switch to a different sailing. But the message was clear: their confirmed booking wasn't actually guaranteed. They didn't cancel and they didn't break the rules. The cruise line just sold more cabins than the ship could hold. And overbooking is only the beginning. That's why I don't leave my bookings to chance. I use Cruises.it, because if things do hit the fan, instead of calling some random 800 number and waiting on hold for someone who doesn't actually cruise, you've got a real person who knows your trip, your ship, your cruise line, and they can fix your problems before they ruin your vacation. They've saved us money, unlocked perks we didn't even know we qualified for, and they always make sure we don't end up like Frank, who showed up at the port ready to board, only to find out his cruise wasn't until next year. Frank, buddy, I told you to double check your booking. Showing up 12 months early doesn't make you first in line. With their low price guarantee and real humans who actually know what they're doing, Cruises.it makes cruising simpler, cheaper, and way less stressful. So click the link in the description or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. Another big reason cruises are getting bumped is redeployments, which is when a cruise line pulls a ship from one region and moves it somewhere else. It all comes down to money. If demand is stronger in the Caribbean than in Galveston or Europe, the cruise line won't leave a ship where it's harder to sell out. They'll cancel months of sailings and redeploy the ship to a market that makes them more money. For guests, that means the cruise they thought was confirmed suddenly disappears. And it's been happening a lot. Princess canceled 15 sailings on the Majestic Princess when they decided to move it out of Galveston. Norwegian scrapped 35 cruises across multiple ships to redeploy them in other areas. And in the UK, P&O canceled a 35-night Caribbean cruise on the Ventura that was already sold out because the company wanted that ship running shorter, higher-yield trips close to home. From the cruise line's perspective, it's just a simple deployment strategy. For passengers, though, their entire vacation evaporated overnight. And redeployments are only the beginning, because sometimes it's not the ship that moves, it's you that gets moved off the guest list. One of the new reasons we've seen people getting bumped this year has nothing to do with overbookings or redeployments. It's policy changes that happen after people are already booked. Carnival has been experimenting with adults-only sailings tied to their casino program, and entire cruises that were originally open to families suddenly became 21 and over only events. Guests with kids on the reservations were contacted just weeks before their departure, and they were told they no longer qualified for the sailing as people booked on the Carnival Magic recently found out. Passengers had booked months in advance only to receive an email that said the ship had been switched to Aces, which is a casino-inspired voyage for adults only, so families who had already secured cabins suddenly had no vacation to go on. For Carnival, it's a test run, an attempt to fill ships during slower weeks by rewarding their casino players. But for guests who were counting on a family getaway, it feels like the rug being pulled out from under them. And adults-only surprises are just one kind of exclusion. Sometimes it's not the rules of the cruise that change, it's that the whole ship gets handed over to someone else. Sometimes you don't get bumped because of overbooking or redeployments. You get bumped because the entire sailing has been chartered. That's when a cruise line rents out the whole ship to a corporation, a theme group, or even a TV production. When that happens, everyone who had booked a cabin on that sailing gets canceled. We've seen this play out in real time. Virgin Voyages pulled a sailing with only 12 days notice for a full ship charter tied to the Bachelorette. And Carnival canceled a sailing on the Liberty because the entire sailing was chartered out for a private event, leaving paying passengers to choose a refund or something else. For the cruise line, it's easy money. One customer pays them for every cabin, guaranteed. But for guests, it feels like your vacation just got auctioned off to the highest bidder. If charters can bump you months ahead of time, the next reason stings even worse because it usually comes at the last minute. Sometimes the reason you get bumped isn't about overbooking or charters, it's because the ship itself isn't ready. Every cruise ship goes in for regular dry docks and maintenance, and most of the time the schedule is planned years in advance, but when those timelines slip, guests with confirmed bookings are the first to pay the price. And that's exactly what happened with P&O's Aurora earlier this year. A dry dock overran and passengers were told just days before departure that their cruise was canceled because the ship wouldn't be back in service on time. And then there's the kind of maintenance nobody sees coming, like what happened on my own cruise on the MSC Meraviglia earlier this year that was canceled because of a propulsion issue that forced the ship to head in for unexpected repairs. One email and our plans were gone. It was a reminder that even when everything looks fine, one mechanical problem can change your entire vacation. And it's not just older ships either. Even brand new vessels can stumble before they ever sail. The Disney Adventure was supposed to launch from Singapore later this year, but Disney Cruise Line delayed their maiden voyage until March 2026, citing construction delays. So thousands of guests who had planned to be part of that inaugural season suddenly had their bookings wiped out, stranded with non-refundable plane tickets if they didn't have travel insurance. From the cruise line's perspective, maintenance delays are unavoidable. From the guest's perspective, it feels like your vacation just got erased by a shipyard calendar. And if maintenance can cancel a trip at the last minute, the next part can sting even more. Because it's not about the ship at all, it's about you, what happens after you've been bumped. Getting bumped feels like the end of the world when you first see the email, but it doesn't have to be. If you can stay flexible, it often ends up being an opportunity rather than a closed door. When my own cruise on the MSC Meraviglia was canceled earlier this year, I thought our plans were finished. But instead, I got a full refund, 50% off a future sailing, and managed to switch onto another ship leaving the same day. That last part mattered because when thousands of passengers are suddenly rebooking at the same time, the best alternatives vanish quickly. The people who spend those first few hours complaining and being upset usually miss their chance. But that's often how cruise lines try to handle bumping, by giving refunds, future cruise credits, and sometimes big discounts or upgrades to ease the sting. But not every cruise line is equally generous. Some go above and beyond, while others barely cover the basics. And almost none of them will cover the non-refundable airfare, hotels, or pre-cruise expenses you've already booked on your own. Which is why travel insurance matters. It won't stop you from being bumped, but it can cover the cost the cruise line won't, and it turns a financial hit into something you can actually come out ahead from. So when it happens, the keys are simple. Move fast, stay flexible, and protect yourself. Do that, and even a canceled cruise can become a trip you're glad you took. But here's the bad news. Even if you plan ahead, pay on time, and do everything right, you can still get bumped. It's completely out of your control, and it's happening more often than ever. But the good news? Now you know why it happens, what to expect, and how to make the best of it when it does. And the easiest way to protect the rest of your vacation is by avoiding the mistakes you can control. So don't stop here. Come hang out with me in the next one where I reveal the biggest first-time cruise mistakes and how to dodge them. It's practical, it's eye-opening, and it might just save your cruise from being a disaster. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.